All right, guys, how many of y'all got it right? It was weathering, okay? Our first lesson is going to be on weathering, erosion, and deposition. For video 1, we're going to focus on weathering, okay? Now, if you looked at the definition, it's the physical or chemical breakdown of rocks and minerals on Earth's surface, okay? Now, as you can see in these pictures, it can happen in different ways. So let's talk about it. If you see in picture 1, you see a boulder that's cracked in half, okay? Now, if you remember, we talked about it. Humans didn't do this, okay? We can crack boulders, but this boulder was done naturally, okay? Through a process called weathering. Now, how do we think the rock cracked? Okay, there could be a couple different things. The wind, we could have water, ice, okay? Let's talk about what do we think cracked the rock, okay? Now, if you look in the background, let's use our investigating skills. If we look in the background, you see what? Well, I see ice floating in the water. So the first thing I think of, it is cold, okay? So what did we talk about? Remember where if you put a water bottle full of water in the freezer overnight, the bottle will crack or bust open. It's the same thing that happens here in the rock, okay? The rock has a crack, maybe small. Ice gets in that crack, and over time, it's expanding, okay? And it's slowly going to make the rock split in half over a long time. This doesn't happen overnight, guys, okay? Let's look at picture 2. Picture 2 does have a split rock as well, but if you can look in the picture, it looks relatively warm there. We see a lot of vegetation, and that's our next way that rocks can be broken, or minerals, okay? Roots. If you look in this picture, we can see that the tree is completely through the rock and has split it in half, okay? Now, the tree didn't just magically come up there. It took a long time for the tree to grow, and it started as a seed, and it got into a small place, and eventually, after years and years of slowly getting larger, it broke the rock in half, okay? We see this all the time, okay? But here, this is a major example of weathering rock. So now instead of we having one rock, we have, I'm looking at like 3 or 4 large pieces and even smaller pieces on the ground, okay? Let's go to picture 3. Now, picture 3 is hard to tell, but if you look to the very right top hand corner, you can see the mainland where like the coast is. This is where this rock originally was connected. I'm going to give you that much, okay? Now, what I really want you to look at also is that big hole in the middle of the rock, okay? It wasn't carved out by humans, okay? No animals did this, all right? Now, if you're looking in the picture, what do you think the main cause of weathering in this picture was from? Does it look like there's much vegetation? To me, it looks like there's some on top, but that's not where our problem is. I would imagine there's wind, okay? But I also see a lot of water. So now we also see waves too, and that's a huge force that can brush up against that rock all day and night, and eventually what it's going to happen is pieces are going to fall off. And that's what's happened here. Of more and more pieces over the years have fallen off and caused this rock formation we have here, a landform, okay? Now, the last way that we have weathering, one of the last ways rocks can be weathered, is in picture 4. In picture 4, it's a little different, okay? Now, this goes back, let's look back at our definition. It says the physical and chemical. So when we get into this one, we're talking about that second part, chemical breakdown of rocks. Now, in the picture, this is a very extreme version, and I touched on this a few lessons ago when we talked about acid rain. Acid rain is a form of pollution that causes weathering of rocks, or if you see right here, this is a statue that's made of rocks, okay, and you see all the what looks like burn marks. Now, in some statues, it's so bad that part of the rocks fall off And the faces, you can't even see the nose, okay? This would be a breakdown of that rock through chemicals, okay? It's on a very small level, it's broken down, all right? Now, for the whole process to happen, it takes a little bit of time, a different amount of time for each one of these examples, okay? Now, we're going to get into the activity, and I want you to think about all the stuff I've talked to you about, and let's go ahead.